What makes people surrender their lives, wealth, and even sanity to cults? Is it charisma, manipulation, or something far more sinister? Throughout history, cult leaders have controlled minds, shattered families, and led followers to horrific ends, all in the name of faith, power, or apocalyptic salvation. Some demanded loyalty through fear, others through promises of paradise. The result? Poisoned towns, mass tragedies, and gruesome executions. From doomsday sects to secretive communes hiding unspeakable horrors, these are the deadliest cults the world has ever known. Number 1. Over 900 people died on Jim Jones' orders. The Jonestown Massacre in Guyana in 1978 remains one of the deadliest cult-related tragedies in modern history. More than 900 members of the People's Temple perished in a mass murder-suicide orchestrated by their leader, Jim Jones. It remains the deadliest non-natural loss of American civilian life in a single event before September 11. Jones, a charismatic preacher, founded the People's Temple in Indianapolis in the 1950s as a seemingly progressive, racially inclusive church. He later moved to California, where his influence grew, culminating in the creation of the Jonestown Agricultural Commune in 1974. However, behind the facade of utopian ideals, Jones enforced strict control, subjected followers to abuse, and increasingly spiraled into paranoia. Things came to a head when U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan visited Jonestown in November 1978 to investigate claims of abuse. As Ryan and defecting cult members attempted to leave, Jones' gunmen ambushed them, killing Ryan and 4 others. Fearing the collapse of his empire, Jones ordered his followers to drink cyanide-laced Flavor Aid. Nearly all complied, including over 300 children. Those who resisted were forced to drink or shot. Jones himself died of a gunshot wound to the head, either self-inflicted or at the hands of his nurse, Annie Moore. The phrase "drinking the Kool-Aid" originates from this horrific event. Number 2. Colonia Dignidad, a Nazi cult of torture. Founded in 1961 in Chile by former Nazi soldier Paul Schaefer, Colonia Dignidad disguised itself as a utopian commune modeled after a Bavarian village. However, it functioned as an authoritarian cult rife with abuse, human trafficking, and political violence. Schaefer, a self-proclaimed religious leader, exerted absolute control over his followers, many of whom were German expatriates. Men and women were segregated, contact with the outside world was forbidden, and members endured forced labor and brutal punishment. Most horrifyingly, Schaefer and his inner circle systematically abused children. Under the Chilean dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet, Colonia Dignidad became a government-sanctioned torture facility where political dissidents were detained, interrogated, and executed. An estimated 100 people were killed there. After Pinochet's fall, Schaefer fled to Argentina but was captured in 2005 and sentenced to prison for child abuse. He died in 2010. Today, the site has been rebranded as Villa Baviera, a tourist attraction where some former cult members still live. Number 3. Aum Shinrikyo's Tokyo subway attack. Aum Shinrikyo, founded in Japan in 1986 by Shoko Asahara, started as a spiritual movement blending Buddhism, Christianity, and doomsday prophecies. However, by the early 1990s, it had morphed into a terrorist organization with thousands of followers and a stockpile of chemical weapons. In 1995, cult members launched a coordinated attack on Tokyo's subway system, releasing sarin gas, a deadly nerve agent developed by Nazi scientists, during rush hour. The attack killed 13 people and injured over 5,800, making it one of the worst terrorist acts in Japanese history. Asahara and 12 of his top followers were executed in 2018. Despite this, Aum Shinrikyo still exists under the name Aleph, with an estimated 1,500 followers. Number 4. The Order of the Solar Temple's Ritual Massacres. Blending Rosicrucian mysticism with apocalyptic beliefs, the Order of the Solar Temple was founded in 1984 by Joseph D. Mambro and Luc Juret. The cult operated in Switzerland, Canada, and France, promising members spiritual enlightenment and eventual salvation via a celestial transit. Between 1994 and 1997, 74 members were found dead across 3 continents in what were described as murder-suicides. Some victims were drugged, shot, suffocated, or set on fire in rituals designed to simulate ascension to a higher plane of existence. One particularly gruesome scene in France featured bodies arranged in a star formation. Authorities believe the deaths were orchestrated by cult leaders to prevent disillusioned followers from exposing their fraudulent operations. Number 5. Rajneesh cult poisoned an entire town. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, also known as Osho, led a controversial spiritual movement that gained worldwide attention in the 1980s. His Oregon-based commune, Rajneeshpuram, clashed with local authorities, leading followers to commit acts of bioterrorism. In 1984, Rajneesh's inner circle poisoned salad bars in the Dallas, Oregon, with salmonella in an attempt to rig local elections by incapacitating voters. Over 750 people fell ill, though no one died. The group also attempted to assassinate a U.S. attorney and sent poisoned chocolates to political opponents. After an FBI investigation, Rajneesh was arrested and deported to India, where he continued his teachings until his death in 1990. Number 6. The Branch Davidian Waco Siege. Led by David Koresh, the Branch Davidians were an apocalyptic sect based in Waco, Texas. In 1993, the group engaged in a 51-day standoff with federal agents over allegations of illegal firearms stockpiling. After failed negotiations, the FBI launched an assault, deploying tear gas. A fire engulfed the compound, killing 76 members, including women and children. To this day, controversy surrounds the siege, with some blaming federal mishandling and others pointing to Koresh's suicidal ideology. Number 7. Heaven's Gate, the cult that chased a UFO. In 1997, 39 members of Heaven's Gate were found dead in a mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. They had meticulously arranged their bodies in bunk beds, dressed identically in black clothing and Nike sneakers, with purple shrouds covering their heads. Each had ingested a lethal cocktail of phenobarbital mixed with applesauce and chased with vodka, believing they were shedding their earthly vehicles to ascend to an extraterrestrial paradise. Heaven's Gate was founded in the 1970s by Marshall Applewhite, a former music teacher, and Bonnie Lou Nettles, a nurse. The pair believed they were divine beings sent to guide their followers to a higher plane. They preached that an alien spacecraft was hidden behind the Hale-Bopp comet, passing Earth in 1997, and that their spirits could board it if they left their physical bodies at the right moment. Applewhite imposed extreme control over his followers, enforcing celibacy. Several male members, including himself, underwent voluntary castration and cutting off contact with the outside world. The group's farewell video, in which members cheerfully announced their transition, remains one of the most chilling testaments to the power of cult indoctrination. Number 8. The Movement for the Restoration of the Ten Commandments. In 2000, nearly 800 members of a Ugandan doomsday cult perished in a mass murder-suicide. The Movement for the Restoration of the Ten Commandments, led by former Catholic catechist Joseph Kibwetir, convinced followers that the world would end on January 1, 2000. When the prophecy failed, disillusioned members demanded answers. In response, cult leaders locked them inside a church and set it ablaze. The massacre remains one of the deadliest cult-related incidents in African history. Number 9. The Manson family's reign of terror. Few cults have left as lasting a cultural scar as the Manson family, a ragtag group of drifters, criminals, and idealists under the control of Charles Manson. Manson, a failed musician with a talent for psychological manipulation, convinced his followers that an apocalyptic race war, dubbed Helter Skelter, after a Beatles song, was imminent. To accelerate this chaos, he ordered a series of brutal murders in Los Angeles in 1969. On the night of August 8, Manson's followers, including Susan Atkins, Tex Watson, and Patricia Krenwinkel, broke into the home of actress Sharon Tate, the 8 months pregnant wife of director Roman Polanski. The group viciously murdered Tate and 4 others, writing messages in blood on the walls. The next night, they killed supermarket owner Leno LaBianca and his wife Rosemary in a similarly gruesome attack. Manson never personally committed the murders, but his influence was undeniable. He and several followers were sentenced to life in prison. Manson remained a symbol of cult-driven violence and manipulation until his death in 2017. Number 10. The Anthill Kids, a cult of unimaginable sadism. Among the most horrifying cults in history, the Anthill Kids, led by Canadian cult leader Rock Terrio, was a brutal and sadistic sect that subjected its members to extreme physical and psychological abuse. Terrio, a self-proclaimed prophet, founded the cult in the late 1970s, attracting followers with his apocalyptic visions and promises of spiritual enlightenment. Once inside, members were completely isolated in a remote commune in Ontario, where Terrio ruled with absolute authority. He forced his followers to endure brutal beatings, mutilations, and starvation as tests of their faith. He even performed crude surgeries on his followers without anesthesia, including the amputation of limbs and the removal of internal organs. Women in the cult were often subjected to sexual abuse and forced pregnancies. The horrors came to light in 1989 when a cult member escaped and alerted authorities. Terrio was arrested, convicted of murder and aggravated assault, and sentenced to life in prison. He was killed by a fellow inmate in 2011. The Anthill Kids remains one of the most shocking examples of how cults can devolve into extreme violence and sadism.